Okay, welcome everybody to day 3 of Inner Lover. And today we are going to be talking about, hands down, my favorite methodology that I have come across in many years, especially the last 3 years since I've come across it and started teaching it, applying it on myself first, and then teaching it to my clients. And I have studied many methodologies. I'm quite a nerd with all the methodologies that are out there, and none of them have really stuck other than this one. And the reason why is because it actually gets us to the other side of our inner critic, of our mean girl, our mean boy, of our saboteur, our inner rebel, of that part of ourselves that just wants life to be hard. We all have her. We all have him. It's part of the human experience. And I have done about 12, 13 years of shadow work, inner child work, and nothing really got me through that voice. It just kind of danced around it. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about because I've shared this with every single one of my clients, and no matter how much they have done their own child work, their inner shadow work, they feel the same. So this teaching is called parts psychology. Parts psychology. People call it parts work. I don't really like the word work anymore, so I'm using parts psychology, which it also goes by. And it is based in the theory that we all have different sub-personalities, different aspects of ourselves, different parts of ourselves that form who we are. What is special to me about this is that these parts were formed as a child, as a protection mechanism. So we think we just have these parts of ourselves. We have this rebel, we have this inner critic, we have this perfectionist, we have this problem finder, whatever it is. I'm just naming a few of the common parts a lot of us have. We think that these are us. We think, oh, I'm that mean voice. Oh, I'm that problem finder. I'm the perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist. You know how many times we say that? I'm a perfectionist. Something that I love about the Spanish language is there's 2 different verbs for I am. One of them is temporary and the other one is long-term, permanent. In the English language, we only have one word. Oh, I'm sad. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I'm lonely. I am, as if that's who we are. No, it's not who we are. Most of these are just an experience we are having. And in terms of parts psychology, these are a part of ourselves. This is not who we are. So if it's not who we are, then who are we? Who we are is the voice behind it. It's that voice that comes in and just knows the way. That voice of reason, that voice of intuition. Give me a show of hands if you know the voice I'm talking about. Exactly. We all know that voice. That is who we actually are. Those other voices were created to keep us safe. That is their sole role. Why were they created at all? Why did they need to keep us safe? Because when we were children, something happened that hurt. And we didn't get to be heard. Our pain was told it wasn't real. There was no time for it. Nobody heard us. Nobody validated us. Nobody asked us if we're okay. Something traumatic happened, whether if it's with a big T, like for me, my house burnt down, or a small T, like your dog barked at you in a way that scared you. Whatever T it was, your parents getting divorced, something worse, something violent happening to you, or just something that hurt, something that hurt. A friend made fun of you at school, whatever it was. We were not taught to process that. We weren't taught that it was okay that that hurt. We were taught, and raise your hand if this resonates with you. There, you're okay. You're okay. Keep going. It's not that big of a deal. Are you bleeding? No, keep going. Am I right? Show me by raising hands. So this is a version of how you were raised. Yeah. And it's not their fault. They thought that was the loving thing to do. They thought that if they magnify the pain, then it'll get bigger. It's not their fault. I'm speaking to our caretakers, our parents. It's not their fault. They didn't know how to take care of us. They didn't know how to ask us how we're doing. They didn't know the importance of giving us a voice in those moments. And the truth is, we didn't know either. Nobody taught us. They don't teach us in school. They don't teach us in school that if something hurts, you need to talk about it. You need to let it out. You need to validate it. You need to make it okay. Nobody said this. Wasn't in schools, wasn't in church, wasn't in temple, wasn't in the doctor's office, wasn't in the children's books or the children's TV shows that we watched. It's missing from basic education. How to take care of ourselves and our emotions. It's missing. So these parts of ourselves are yearning now for what they didn't get then. They're yearning to be heard, validated, witnessed without trying to fix or change it. Asked what it needs. And I'm going to be going through all of these steps. Asked what it needs and then given what it needs. Seems pretty common sense, right? Like, oh, you're hurting. Well, tell me about it. What's going on? Oh, that makes sense. Well, what do you need? Okay, I can do that for you, right? That seems like, yeah, we should do this, but we don't. We don't. Until now. And I didn't until parts work. I didn't understand. I didn't know how to do this either. Now, why is this important? Why is this important? Why do we need to be able to talk to these parts of ourselves? Why do we need to move through them? Well, it's important for the relationship with ourselves because when these parts come up wanting attention, we're able to be with them so they don't take over our lives and our present moment. Because that's what they do. They'll come up for air, wanting to be seen, and what we've been trained to do is push them back down. When we push them back down, they build momentum. Even though we push them down, they're still there. Do you think you can manifest from that place? No. What do you manifest from that place? More of that energy. Whatever part you just pushed away, it comes back up and then you manifest from that place. That's how energy works. What you resist persists. Why is this important in relationship? Because I know most of you signed up here because you want partnership, whether if it is that you have it and you want to deepen it, or you don't have it and you're calling it in. Why is this important in partnership? Wow. This has changed my relationship completely because I actually know how to hold space for another person for the first time. Because I know how to do it for myself for the first time. So now I'm able to actually do it for another person for the first time. Now that's when you already are in a partnership. Why is this important if you're calling in a partner? Wow. Until we have a relationship with all the parts of ourselves, we will continue manifesting people that do not hold space for our parts. Because remember, how we treat ourselves is how other people learn how to treat us. So if we push down our inner voices, somebody else will also not be able to hold space for you. It's part of attracting that emotionally unavailable partner over and over. I know that was my pattern. I know it's a lot of our patterns. Why? Why does this happen? It's because of one thing. We are being emotionally available to ourselves. Everything is a mirror. I'm going to be talking a lot more about that topic right there of identifying the specific way you are pushing love away from you, the specific thing that you are doing or not doing to yourself, and then attracting in a partner. I'm going to be talking a lot more in super detail about this in my upcoming program, Magnetic Love, which is all about uncovering our origins of love, where they came from, how we're still holding on to them, how we're still replaying them over and over, and how it's manifesting in our love life. And then from that place of awareness, we get to rewrite our story of love and attract something different. So parts work is a gigantic topic, gigantic. I taught from that place for years. And to be honest, none of my clients got it. The theories were too big. There was too many questions. There was too many steps. It's a big, giant teaching. And I kept trying to teach from that place and say, here you go. You have the tools, run with it. And none of them did. It was too much. So I did what I do with every giant teaching that I believe deserves real, genuine integration. I streamlined it. I condensed it. And now with this process, I give it to my clients and now they actually can do it. They don't have to read all the books. They just do this 5-step process I'm going to be sharing with you and they've got it. So this is what I'm going to be sharing with you guys today. You don't have to read all the books. You can if you want. If you're like me and you're super nerd, you're just like, I need to know more. Well, look at that. I need to know more. Go ahead. But you don't have to in order to feel the power of this teaching. So who's ready? Who's ready to hear the condensed version of the process that has changed my life and the life of every single one of my clients, that has changed my relationship as well? It's changed everything. Okay, you're ready. Okay, so I'm actually going to, for those of you live, you are going to get this, and it's also coming in the email for those of you not live. Oh, I cannot send a JPEG here. It says the account admin won't allow JPEG. Am I not the account admin on my own Zoom account? All right, weird. So never mind. Okay.
You
So,
share it in the WhatsApp, maybe?
oh, that's a good idea. Thank you. Thank you, Haley. That was genius. Okay. So I'm going to be sharing this little. There we go. This way you don't have to write down every single thing that I say. Just write down anything that comes through, not on that. Tell me if you guys are able to see that. What just came through in the WhatsApp? Perfect. Pull it up if you're able to. Okay. So I'm going to go through it first. Then I'm going to role model it. I'm going to show you what it looks like. And then we're going to go through it together. All right. So first step is sense something is off. You don't have to know what it is. It can be just a general state of blah, anxiety, stress, feeling unmotivated, having negative thinking, whatever it is. Whatever it is. That's step 1. Step 2. Actually, first I should introduce the method. It's called the SALVE method. SALVE. S for sense. A for ask. L for listen. V for voice. And E for engage. And I've made this simple so you can be in it and be like, what do I do next? What do I do next? S-A, oh yeah, listen, okay. I do that. I made this method and I still am in it. I'm in the part and I'm like, what do I do next? What do I do next? So I needed this. I made it for me. Okay, so I did S. A, ask. Ask it questions. Inquire about its purpose and why it's there. Ask it what its needs are. And you can ask it questions like this. What are you afraid of? Thank you for resending it, Layla. Perfect. Layla's on it. What are you afraid of? What are you worried may happen? What are you defending? And these are all in that PDF. What are you trying to protect me from? Because remember, that's what it's doing. It's trying to protect you. What do you have to say? What do you want me or someone to know? Good. So then you listen. L, you listen. Active listening. You respond by saying, uh-huh. Anything else? What else? Is there anything more you need to say? I'm listening. You do not say, well, they only said that because they're hurting too. Or, but you're okay, right? Like he didn't mean to say it like that. They don't bring in that voice of reason, the logical thinking. A lot of us have powerful minds. Our minds try to come in at this step. They try to tell us that what we're feeling, we don't need to be feeling it. And they're trying to protect us, just like our parents were when they're like, oh, you're okay, you're fine. It's coming from love. But this is not the time for that voice. Does that make sense? Give me a show of hands if you understand what I mean by that. That voice tries to come in and it's like, oh no, they didn't mean to hurt you. You're okay. You can just fix it tomorrow, right? It's like, okay, thank you. And I actually just need to be heard right now. Because that's what we didn't get as children. So those parts are going to keep coming up until we hear them. So the next one is V. And I'm just going to say them back. So it's S. S is send something as off. A, ask it questions. L is listen. V is voice. And V has 2 steps. The first step is to validate what you heard. Once again, that's something we also did not get as a child. And I say we as if it's a blanket statement because most of us didn't have parents that knew how to do this. If there is someone that did, and this isn't you, wow, I want to talk to you. But most of us didn't. That's why we're here doing this, because when we give it to ourselves, we rewrite that story, and then we'll be able to give it to the next generation and the next generation. So we validate our experience, even if it doesn't make sense. We validate it. We say things like, I can imagine that's challenging for you. Haley says, your mom was great. Yeah, the battle is with your boyfriend. Love him. Yeah, we were not taught how to do this. So Haley, you get to do it for yourself, and then you get to do it for him, and he will then understand how to do it back to you. Exactly. Yeah, I feel that. I feel that so much. We as a society need this tool so badly. That's why this is my favorite day, because the last 2 days, a lot of people are teaching their versions of it. Yes, I love my version, and like it's out there. This stuff is not out there. People are talking about parts work, but it's in the giant theory of it. And it took me 3 years to break it down into this. And I know people need it broken down. So this is why today just lights me up so much. So we validate it and we say things like, it makes sense that you feel that. It seems so simple, but it's so revolutionary to how we were trained. You have every right to feel that way. What else is coming up for you? I'm here, I'm listening. And the other part of voice is actually not in the PDF, because it's a part that I questioned if I should add. And yesterday, my intuition said, yes, you guys get to have that part too. You might not remember it when you first start practicing, and that's okay. If you do, awesome. What it is giving another way to see things. Now is an opportunity for that voice to come in and say, gently, may I offer another way to see this? Are you open to seeing this another way? You don't have to take it, but is it okay if I share just another way I'm personally seeing this right now? And this is when that higher self gets to come in. This is when the higher self gets to hold the human, gets to hold the little self. And the little self can say, no, I actually don't want another perspective at this moment. I want to keep being heard. I want to keep letting it out. And that's when that higher self voice gets to say, okay, I'll step back. What else? What else do you have to say? What else do you want me to know? What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? Does that make sense? Give me a show of hands if that makes sense. Yeah. Good. Good, good, good. And the last step, I'll just wait until I see you guys jotted. Haley says, my partner compared his ability to your mom's ability to hold space. Compared to his ability to mom's ability, to his mom's ability, to your
I
mom's.
compare, yeah, because my mom, it was very in tune. I mean, she was a single mom for many years and she was always attentive. But now it's like I call my mom, I vent it out, but now I want to have a partner that can also hold space for me when I'm in uncertainty or strung out or having panic attacks.
Yeah.
So I go to my inner circle first, and then I'm just like, I need him to upgrade. I need you to up level so you can also hold space. But it's
Got
been
it.
a 4 year journey, and he's gotten better, but I am excited for him to take this, watch the replays, because then we have a shared language,
Yes.
which we don't have right now.
Yes. I totally get it. I wish for all of the relationships out there that it supports you in the way that it has supported mine, because I didn't know how to hold space for him. I know how to hold space for my clients, but even my sister friends, when they would come to me, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, okay, they're not my clients, so what do I do here? And now I know. And now you all know. So we have one more step. Lindsay said, this specific part has helped my friendship so much. Exactly. Instead of trying to fix their problems, instead asking if they want to be heard or want help, yet forget to apply it to myself. Ooh, that is so real. That is so real. I feel that one so much. Yeah. Yeah. We forget to apply the way we love others to ourselves. Yeah. So Last one is engage. When the part has been witnessed and validated and it's complete, I'm going to go into that for a second. In the beginning, when you first start giving these parts of you a voice, they might need a lot of airtime. Or they might not trust you because you've never connected with them before. So some people in the very beginning experience where their parts just let it out and let it out, and it feels like it's never going to end. Or they experience the exact opposite, which is silence, because that part says, oh, really? Oh, really? You noticed me now? You've pushed me away for this many years. I'm going to push you away now. It doesn't work like that. You can't just expect me to open up to you. So if either of those happens, that's totally normal. If it's the first one where it feels like it's never going to end, then put a cap at it. Put a cap on your emotional release. Give yourself 20 minutes. And then say with love, hey, my love, thank you so much for sharing. I feel like what the most loving thing to do now is put a cap on it and revisit this tomorrow. Is that okay? And she's probably going to say, and like not let it be okay. But that's when you get to step in and say, it's actually what the healthiest thing to do right now is put a little cap on this. And if she does the opposite and won't open up to you, then you just with love keep trying. If somebody's been hurt, they might not open up right away. But if you keep showing up and you keep showing up and you prove to them that you care by your consistency, they will. They will. I promise you. I've seen it happen over and over again. So the last part is engage. And that is asking what it needs from you or what it needs in general. What do you need? What do you need, my love? We were not trained or taught to meet our own needs. We weren't trained or taught to ask what our own needs are or to even know them. So what do you need? And then you listen and you find a way to meet that. In parts work, in part psychology, they call it negotiate, which means you go back and forth until you find a common thread of something that works for both of you and you commit to it. And I'm going to give an example of what this looks like. So engage would be ask what it needs, negotiate, and commit. Good. So I'm going to role play this. Once I see you guys getting your notes written down, take your time. And be gentle on yourself if this takes you a while to integrate. The power of being held by another person through this is real when you're first starting out. And this is what we're going to be doing in Magnetic Love. But I know you guys you can do it. You can do it. I'm just telling you, it really helps having someone hold the space for you. Even for me, my coach held me through parts work like a couple weeks ago. Even though I am a practitioner, I still needed to be held through it. I got to be held through it. We get to get supported. Okay, so this is me going through parts work, going through the salve process specifically. All right. And I start with my hands on my body, usually my heart. So I'll sense something is off. And I'm gonna show you a real example of what I was up to 2 nights ago when I couldn't sleep. And I used this process. So this was 2 nights ago. It was before or one night ago, I can't remember. Before one of the training days, and my mind was racing. And so it was like 4 in the morning, and I am like, okay, sensing something is off. My mind cannot stop racing. And so that's step one. Sense something is off. Ask it questions. I'm like, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? And right away she says, I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to show up for the training. I don't know my notes. I didn't prepare my presentation enough. I didn't look over everything before I went to bed. There's so many little things I want to remember. And what if I forget them? And she's coming up with all these ideas, all these ideas. If you could say this, you could say that, you could say this, you could say that. And I'm just listening. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. I hear you. I hear you. What else? Well, you should have looked over your notes before you went to bed. What if you forget to say that? I'm so scared. I'm so scared that you're going to fail. You put so much time and energy into this, and you didn't even look at your stuff before bed. Like, do you even care? I'm like, yes, I hear you. I hear you. I totally get it. There's so many pieces that you want to be grounded. I get it. So I just went through S, I went through A, I listened. Now I validate it. Hey, I'm so sorry that I didn't show up for you and getting this out of my head and onto the paper before I went to sleep. You're right. You have every right to feel overwhelmed. You have every right for your mind to be racing. You have every right to feel what you're feeling. And now I go into bringing in another way to see things. Are you open to seeing another way to possibly see this? And she's like, okay. And so what I said is, do you have some space tomorrow to go over those notes? I guess I could go over those notes and add all those missing pieces before the training. Oh, okay. What time? Um, from like 2 to 3. I feel like I could have time to go over my presentation. Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. And maybe even for the future days of the training, you are going to look over your notes before you go to sleep. Yeah, that feels really good. I'm going to commit to that. I'm going to commit to tomorrow, go over my notes before the training, and I'm going to commit to every other day going over my notes before I fall asleep, the day before. That feels really loving. I take a deep breath and I come back to the space. And that was me. I wasn't processing real time. If I'm processing real time, I literally am like, ah, getting it all out. I'm like, where am I? Where am I? S, A. Oh yeah. Okay. I did that. Then listen. Okay. I go through it. I use those. In the beginning, I had that all the steps written out, and I would look at that all the time. And now I know it. That's why I made it a word, like salve. Salve literally means to like love oneself, to soothe oneself. So all you got to remember is salve. Salve yourself. So I want to guide you all through this now. Does anybody have any questions before we go through that?
I do, Simona.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad to hear, because I was introduced to this a while ago when we
Yep.
did some together, and my kitty. Um, and I'm so glad that you said that sometimes in the beginning, your parts just don't want to say anything, because I feel like that's what happens to me a lot is I try to get in touch with that part, and my logical mind is like, I don't really even know how to talk to, like, how am I going to do that? Like, I'm really answering myself, you know what I'm saying? That kind of logical thinking. So I'm just really glad to hear that you say, no, that's completely normal. Um, so yeah, any I guess ideas of how to just work through getting past that place where you can hear them and listen.
Patience, patience with yourself, because we were trained to go straight from sensing something's off all the way to being that voice of reason. We were trained to go from A to V. What we get to implement is those steps: A, asking and listening. And it takes practice and patience. And it takes forgetting that you didn't do it and starting over. I would say just practice, 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 practice with yourself. Practice small. Like even the other day when I was, I couldn't sleep. That's an example of a small way you can practice. If your mind's racing, hey, what's up? What are you thinking about? Start with practice with the small things, so that with the bigger things, the things that you might have been carrying for many, many years, and you have a lot of programming around going straight from sensing something is off to validating it, or sorry, being that voice of reason, so that you can shut it up. Those ones might take more time to nurture, but start with the small, practice with the small things. Does that make sense?
Oh, perfect sense. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good, good. Anybody else have other questions? That was a great one, Jen. Thank you.
I'll just add, like, I also, when I first started doing the inner work, I had a hard time having conversation with myself. And my coach at the time was like, oh, just like visualize a future version of yourself, like render it in your mind like a TV show.
Mhm.
But what actually helps is doing it in the mirror, because I'm seeing my present self, acknowledging that like this is a present thing. And it's also incredibly like intimidating if you don't if you it was so I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't tell myself I love myself. So getting through the fear of literally seeing myself in the mirror also helped me like
Wow.
build that internal dialogue.
That's so good. That's so powerful. Thank you, Haley, for sharing that. Yeah, Jen, that's another thing you can add to your toolkit, is doing it in the mirror, doing the parts work in the mirror or on your voice notes, just having some kind of feedback, or
Mhm.
even journaling. Journaling. Ooh, that could be really powerful, where you sit there with all these 5 steps written down. And when something comes up, you sit there with your notes and you go through it with the 5 steps sitting right next to you.
Perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. Willow says, wowza, I got so much from that. Even though I've been doing parts work for over a year, I've been skipping listening and validating and jumping straight to listening. Yeah. You and most people I know, even when they've been practicing parts work. That's why I had to make this 5 steps. I was like, everyone's skipping these parts. Everyone's skipping it. Everyone was doing that, Willow. You're not the only one.
I have a question for you, Simona.
Yeah.
Uh, do you have advice on, because sometimes these parts of ourselves will show themselves at incredibly inconvenient times, like, oh, hey, we're at work. Sorry, you don't have space right now. Um, do you have advice on how you can placate that part of yourself until you get to a place and time where you can give them space to have that dialogue?
Such a good question. Yes. So, first of all, that happens less and less and less when you have a regular parts work practice, because they only come up when you're not being with them. And I feel like they're sassy, smart little ones where they come up when they know it's gonna mess with you. Because it's your rebellious little child that's like, oh, you're gonna keep avoiding me? Oh, really? Then I'm gonna come up where you can't avoid me. So when you start being with them, when you're alone, when it's easier, they'll stop coming into those moments where it really messes with things. They'll stop coming out at work or when you're on a date or when you're in a meeting or whatever it is. They won't need to hijack the moment. So for now, one thing you can do, and even when you've been doing parts work for a while, this might still happen where it just comes up when you're out in the world. Like for me, sometimes it comes up at social settings. I'm really good in small groups. Large groups is just not really my favorite thing. So sometimes in large groups, I sense parts of myself that are just like, this feels weird. And I will do one of two things. In the beginning, what I did is I will say, hey, my love, I'll acknowledge it. I'll sense something is off. I'll say, hey, I feel you. I know you're here. Can we address this later? So we acknowledge it. And then we find another time. We tell her that this isn't the best time. Can we talk about this after work? And she might say no, and I need to talk now. And you're like, okay, what about 30 minutes? Like, can we just finish this and then we'll go into my car. We'll talk for 30 minutes. You know, you're talking to her like she's a friend. That's the other thing. I'm so glad you asked that because this is such a big point is that our parts are, we want to view them as if they're a friend of ours, a little friend, a best friend, a partner. They're our partner. If you were at work and your partner said, hey, I'm really hurting. Can we talk? Would you avoid it? Would you ignore it? Would you keep working? You could, but what kind of a relationship would that be? Right? You'd be like, hey, my love, I hear you. I see you. I gotta finish this stuff right now. Would it be okay if we talk tonight? And he's like, I'm really hurting. Do you think we can talk sooner than that? And you're like, okay, I can make 30 minutes on my lunch break. Or maybe he's like, yes, tonight's cool. So you want to do the same with yourself in those moments. I'm so glad you brought that up because this is a key here is we want to treat our parts like they are our best friend. They are our child. They are our partner. They're our soulmate. This is how we reparent ourselves, and this is how we become our own partner. When we are our own partner, we become unstoppable. We become our own rock. And then we can manifest and magnetize another rock, another partner to be there with us. Until we are our own partner, though, until we reparent ourselves in these parts, we are unable to call in another person to meet us here because the way we treat ourselves is the way others treat us. When you are proficient at parts work, you can be at work or at the party, and you can actually go through all 5 steps. What I do, I'm taking you guys into my inside world. What I do is I will like go to the bathroom or I'll take a walk. Hey, I'll be right back. You don't have to tell anyone where you're going. And I'll go. Sometimes I look in the mirror, just like you said, Haley. I'll look at myself and I'll go through the 5 steps. Or I'll sit down in a corner and I'll meditate. I do this at parties. Sometimes people sit there and join me because they're just looking for a space to chill out too. It's really funny. People want more spaces to be with all parts of themselves, right? Any other questions? Such good questions. Okay, so let's guide you through salve. So if you could put away your notes and just come into a comfortable position. And it looks like you're all muted. Okay, good. So what I want you to do is talk to yourselves. I'm going to say something and you repeat it either in your own words or use my exact words if they resonate. Remember, you are your own leader. You are your own teacher. You are your own guide. So if I say something and it feels like those aren't the words for me, retranslate it into your own words. So take a deep breath and just start getting grounded into the space, into your room. Good. And draw your attention to something in your current space, in your current reality, in your mind, in your body, in your life that could use some love. Maybe it's overthinking. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's disbelief in what you want. Maybe it's something you wrote on your list from last night. Pick something. And just say hi to it. Hey, hey part, hey you. Just like you would to a friend. Hi, hello. Yep. What's going on? How are you doing? What are you afraid of? What do you have to say? I'm here, I'm listening. What do you want me or anyone to know? And now we're just going to listen. And if it's silent, just keep repeating back any of those questions or any of your version of them. You can put your hands on your body to create further connection if that feels right. Yeah. Good. Just keep listening. You could say things like, uh-huh. What else? What else do you want me to know? Get it all out. It's a safe space. Good. And we're going to move into validating. And say your version of, you have every right to feel this way. I totally understand. It makes sense. I get that you would feel this way. You're not wrong to feel this. I can imagine how challenging that might be. Doing so good. And now ask if it is open to see things in a different way, if it's open for an alternative perspective. And if it says yes, share another way to see things with love, with gentleness, with compassion. And if it says no, or if it doesn't respond at all, I would take that as a no, not for now. And I would just keep saying, what else do you want me to know? Good. And say, thank you for sharing. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for opening up. What do you need from me at this time? And let the part respond. And find a way to meet this need that works for both of you. You might negotiate back and forth. And when you have agreed to it, make a commitment. When will you do this? How will you do this? Good. You're doing so well. And just thank that part of you for sharing. And thank yourself for holding that part of you. You just did that. You just held yourself. You just were your own partner. You gave yourself the thing that you didn't get when you were a child. You gave it to yourself now. Every time you do this, you become more and more powerful, more and more magnetic, more and more whole. So take your time coming back into the space, turning your cameras back on. Feel free to write down any notes of some things that you would like to remember, jot down. I see a lot more brightness in your faces. Mhm. So proud of you all. So proud of you. You really did it. Willow said, I was hearing lots from my part, but as soon as I asked what it needed, I got silence. I'm feeling into that. What I do when that happens is I give them options. Give options. Would you like me to do this? Would you like me to do that? What if I did this tomorrow? And I choose the one that I can just feel in my system that it wants me to do the most. It's not a tangible thing. It's a feeling thing. Does that make sense, Willow? You give it options, and then you'd use your gut as a manifesting generator. You'd use your gut to help you feel into which one is an intuitive yes. Yes, she said yes, that makes sense. Lindsay says, my part wanted to be heard from other people. So we're going to negotiate. So your part wanted other people to hear you? Yeah. Was it specific people or just other people in general? Specific people. Are you open to having some conversations with those people?
Yes, some of them. One of them I don't think is in a place to really hear, but so we're gonna work on the timing of it, and I promised her that we would pick the right time because otherwise I feel like it wouldn't be received well, and I don't want to keep going through this.
Wow. That is so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It touches on a really important topic, which is a part of that negotiation might be where it's not the time now to give it what it needs in that way, especially if it relates to another person, because it can cause more harm. Exactly what your higher self was feeling. Like you're going to need to negotiate on that a little bit. There is something you can do now, though, to give that part what it wants, which is you can have a conversation with that person's higher self, with that person's soul, that person's spirit. I do that all the time with people that I can't reach in the physical. They're just not ready. Yeah, that one has helped me tremendously when my part is like in agony because of something about another person, but that other person cannot hear me. I will have a conversation with their higher self and instantly I feel better. Waiting for the teachable moment is a real thing. Oftentimes our parts will be like, you need to talk to that person right now. But if it's not the right moment, if it's not the teachable moment to tell someone how you're feeling or to invite someone into an alternate perspective, then it's not the teachable moment as the expression goes. So great job, Lindsay. You tapped into something really real. Yeah. Anybody else want to share? I would love to hear from you. Each one of your shares helps me think of more things that like I've needed to say. It's really helpful.
And thanks for saying the higher self part, or like my higher self talking to theirs. That really, that was a cherry on top that hit. So thank you. That's a great idea.
Thank you for sharing yours so I could remember to say that because it has helped me through tremendously as well. Yeah. Anybody else?
I'm willing to share that what I got from it was shocking. Finding out what she needed, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And she's like, what, do you think this was going to be easy? I'm like, because the first time I ever did parts work, it was like, it was a version of me that was like the little girl, and she gave me exactly what she needed right away. And I was like, okay, you need comfort food and you need to feel a certain way. And the things that she told me or needed, I was able to fulfill that day. These things, what a different part of me wants. I'm like, that's not getting filled today. We both know that. And I was like, you again, like her need was shocking to me. And I'm like, we're gonna negotiate on this. I hear you. I validate this. It makes sense. I get it. I was not anticipating that, but yeah, when I get to this point, I will negotiate that I will do this for you.
Great job. That is a perfect example of when the part needs something that we cannot fulfill right now. We do go through that negotiation. And often it's those SALV parts that is really what she needed. And then the asking her what she needs and giving it is really just like a bonus completion, pouring glitter all over it. But it's really, she just really needed to be heard.
Yeah.
That's what she didn't get as a kid. And so she keeps coming up and keeps coming up and keeps coming up. But she really just needs to be heard and validated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good job. Thank you for sharing that, Jessica. I'm really, really proud of everybody. So one other thing I want to share here is that the more you do this, the easier it gets. Not just because you know those 5 steps like the back of your hand, but because you know all your individual parts. So I brought up for me, when I'm in large social settings, a part comes up. A part comes up. And in the beginning, I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm super extroverted. I'm super social. I'm great with people. What's wrong with me when it's big social settings? And I thought it was something wrong. And now I just know it's a part. And so once you know all of your parts, then you no longer get thrown by them. I no longer am in social settings and I'm like, what's going on? No, I'm just like, oh, it's that part. She was made fun of in school and tried to fit in with the popular people. And now social settings make her remind her of that. It's my teenage self. So our parts were born out of different time frames of our childhood. So once you know all of them, and with my clients, we name them. So for me, I have problems finder Patty. She finds problems everywhere. It was a protection mechanism. My house burnt down when I was 6 years old. And so when I was 6 years old, I took on the belief that if I find the problem before it occurs, I'll protect myself. So she's on high alert. Problems finder Patty is on high alert everywhere she goes. She sees the dirt on the wall. She sees the hair on the floor. She hears the creak in the wall. Every single thing, every single potential problem, she's on high alert. I see you, Layla. You're smiling. You might know her. You might know problem-seeking Patty. A lot of us have her. Yeah. So now that I know that, now when I'm going somewhere and I'm having the best time, but I'm still looking at the problems, I'm like, Patty, Patty, come on. You don't need to keep me safe now. So that's another reason it gets easier is you know the method and you know the parts. So there are some common parts I'm just going to list. These are some common parts amongst our current society, as well as amongst ambitious, powerful women. We have the perfectionist. We have the overachiever. We have the busybody. We have the hustler. We have the fixer. We have the overwhelmer. We have the people pleaser. We have the attention seeker. We have the I'll get it done nower. I can do it all, or give it to me. I'll do it. You know, we talk about these parts as if they're parts of ourselves. You know, I'm a perfectionist. Oh, I'm hyper ambitious. I'm hyper independent. We wear them like it's labels on ourselves. Like I said in the beginning, we talk about ourselves as if these aspects are permanent and as if they're who we are, but they're not. They're a protection mechanism. So once we can really create some healthy separation between who we actually are, that voice that you all agreed to having, or not only having, because we all have it, but you all agreed that you know that you have it. That voice, the true self. And the other voices, all the other voices, all those other voices. Once we create some space, some loving space, which comes as a result of doing the parts process. Once we create that space, we no longer forget and think that we are those voices. Instead, when they come up, we tend to them, we salve them. We don't fall into the spiral. Remember, they're coming up. This is so important. I have to say it again. They're coming up in the present moment in our adult lives because they didn't get airtime when they were a child. Nobody was there to hear them. So now who gets to be there? We do. We get to be there for them. It's so empowering. Everything changes when we do this. This takes shadow work and inner child work to the next level. In my opinion, the shadow work and the child work that's out there is really just kind of ruminating in it. Ruminating and ruminating and ruminating and ruminating. And this actually gives you the tools to be with it. To be with it so that we can have our lives back. So tonight's home play is going to be really short and simple. All I want you to do is tomorrow, when you wake up, ask yourself how you are. That's it. Wake up and check on your heart. Don't check on your phone. Don't check on your work even your partner, even your kids, your cat. If your cat's anything like mine, you're going to be yelled at to get fed before you get out of that bed to feed that cat. Just ask your heart how she's doing, how he's doing. How are you doing? That's it. That is a short and sweet, gentle entry point into the parts process. And you don't have to do all that in the morning, but just ask how you're doing. So tomorrow we are going to take all that we've talked about and worked on and integrated, and we're going to embody it. So be ready to move. Wear clothes that you can move around in. We're not going to do anything crazy, but like some yoga pants, a yoga mat, that kind of vibe. So thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to stop this replay now. Stop recording.